And here we are.
Hello, everybody watching or just coming live with another Talk to the Entities specialty focused roundtable. So this month, the specialty focus or spotlight is on relationships and entities. I am Shannon O'Hara, and I'm joined today by two co-Talk to the Entities facilitators, Max Zoulek and Aelleen Del Valle. I hope I'm pronouncing.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's my front doorbell ringing for all of you guys. It's actually a delivery guy, not a ghost. If you're just tuning in, if you're seeing this for the first time, you are joining in a year-long spotlight on the Talk to the Entity specialties. What are the Talk to the Entity specialties? They are essentially they're the focuses on the ways in which entities can impact our lives and show up in different aspects of our lives. One of which is in relationships. So just a super quick little rundown on what we mean by entities and relationships. It's the obvious one, which many will relate to, is ancestors. Another one is when you are, you have somebody in your life who crosses over, and does that relationship then end when the person crosses over? A lot of the, European and European descent culture terminology for when somebody dies is that they lost that person. We in Talk to the Entities have a very different perspective on that, in that you basically don't disappear when your body dies. You continue on with whatever consciousness or unconsciousness you choose. And so the relationships that we have in life can carry over into being a sort of multi-dimensional kind of relationship, depending on what you and the beings choose. You can also have entities that have impacts on the relationships that you have, like, say, for example, you're married, your partner crosses over, but your partner stays living in the house, and that can have an impact on the next relationships or the next sort of closest or love relationships that you can have due to the presence of a previous spouse who still lives in the house but without a body. I don't know if that sounds obvious to some of you guys, or if that sounds wild, or if that just sounds common sense, but it's if you're down the track here listening to this spotlight, this specialty focus, go back and start at the beginning. You'll be able to find the playlist on wherever you're watching this, on YouTube or on Facebook. And start from the beginning, because the beginning is, I would say, like the less weird ones. I don't know if that's the way to call it. Entities and relationship is a slightly advanced topic because relationships are so complex. And then you add entity stuff on top of it, and it's like, wow, we've got astrophysics here. We've got like mysterious astrophysics. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. A little bit of some tips, some tools, some stories, and some insights into how to include this kind of awareness in your life and see if it's even relevant to you. So where shall we begin? Who would like to share tips, tricks, stories, experiences in this area?
Okay, I will start. For me, it's pretty fun when I, practice with the tools, and I just realized I just create this relationship with entities, but not with me. And that part, it's a little interesting because I'm reaction in the relationship before. And for me, it's just like how would I be like a disconnect with myself. You just try to play with something, but I'm not included in that. And that part is just like, wow, how many years I spent to create a relationship with this kind of energy outside, just doing something like, I don't know how I can explain that, just like something outside of me. But it's just more like, now it's more like more with me and change everything. It's more, it's more the connection with myself, more the connection with the relationship. It's more calm. It's less reaction. It's more present. It's pretty easy right now for us, the tools.
So I think I know what you're talking about, but correct me if I didn't quite get this. So what are you talking about, that the relationship, like let's say any relationship you're having, you were essentially like having a relationship with the relationship, but not including you in that relationship. Right. So that's actually another aspect of, that's actually something I didn't mention in the beginning of this, that relationships often are entities unto themselves due to that they exist they essentially exist outside of you. They exist usually either between two people or a constellation of people, which we call family. So you refer to the family, which has its own energy, its own definition, its own expression that you label as the family. And that family is an entity. When you remove one of the members of the family, the entity may or may not actually shift, but it's the place where we can have allegiance or commitment to the relationship, the entity of the relationship, which isn't wrong or bad, but do you also have that allegiance and connection to you, or are you making the entity of the relationship the only priority?
Yeah. It for me, it's just like I just put the information outside because that we have this ancestral energy with relationship with someone else, but I had like now I have more awareness, but in the past I had this energy with my grandmother. She passed away, and we are so connected together, and I respect a lot her, and that's connection I feel in the house a lot because feels like like when someone likes the house in this way and you try to change something, it's like a no, 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 no. And that's just like okay, this is now for me, it's just like this is my mother house, my grandmother house, and she's just like no, you need my permission or conversation this with me. And it's pretty fun because like it's more relaxed, like we can do this or something because she's stuck right there, like in the house.
So this is a great example of what I mean by entities in relationship, where you can have a grandparent or a family member or anybody really still living in the house, and that entity has points of view. And especially if it was your grandmother's house originally, the entities can hang around and sort of still have the point of view, like, this is my house, you need my permission. But if you're not aware of that, it can become really limiting. But when you are aware of it, that opens up so much more possibility.
Yes. For me, after the talk to the entity tool, it's a lot judgment about the house. I don't like the house. I feel like so many energies, and I want to run from there. But one moment, like, okay, let me speak with the house, or what's something over here, and then my grandmother energy just show up, and it's just like this is my kids because my mother and her brother living right there, and and it's like, oh my god, now I have other energy, and I really respect whatever they doing right there. It's just more different because it's like sometimes you want to put your point of view and don't make a question like what I liked at the house, or what show you want to create more. And now it's just like, okay, what does the house require, or what does my grandmother require over here? And changed a lot, and the house looks better right now. It's more calm because like she feel like she know I'm here, this is my house, and it's very fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation and an interesting aspect of this that you're bringing up, because I believe that most people would hear this story and think, wow, like her grandmother's like haunting the house, or wanting to get rid of that spirit of your grandmother, as though that's, most people believe that getting rid of entities is like the only course of action, which is relevant. Like there is a whole clearing protocol for that. And the reason why I call relationship and entities an advanced specialty is because what we're basically talking about, and what Aelleen is describing, is cooperating with the spirit.
Yeah.
Which is a whole new revolution of possibility that it just makes things so much more harmonious when you know that you're dealing with an entity. And at least in Aeleen's case, this is an entity that she has a positive relationship with and is not actually creating havoc. You can have entities that live in houses that you had relationships with that do create havoc or disharmony. And that can become a very different conversation, which is essentially relationship therapy or divorce, but with a spirit. So it's a great story, an excellent example, because that's just one of the real life ways in which entities, the relationships we have with people, can carry over and have impact on literally domestic realities.
Yeah. And I'll put in there too, to be honest, relationships aren't my strong point. Like creation of relationships has never been my strong point. And it was really not good before talk to the entities, where I couldn't even acknowledge those relationships that were going on. It was always such an avoidance. Like so much of my energy was in avoidance. Like Shannon just mentioned, is when you're in a house, for example, and you're aware of entities and all of their points of views that they're trying to push, and my family is a big pusher of points of views, so my ancestors, my grandmothers, and my parents, it's just always a pusher point of view. So I've grown up with that, and for me, it felt normal. But I gained a lot more choice in my world when I could acknowledge entities, and then when family points of views were coming in like that. So yes, I still had to have to deal with my parents' points of views, who still are embodied, but I could acknowledge a whole bunch of the family and where the streamline of stuff and points of views was coming from, to have a lot more freedom and not have to avoid, to actually get to have a choice. And like Aelleen said, it's huge for me too, is including myself in those choices and actually being able to create a reality that I could take ownership of, and that includes me, that is what I would like, rather than all of this noise of what was always said should be, right? And what I should be and how things should be and so forth. So part of this thing of relationships was getting clear about which relationship, for me, was getting clear about which relationships are relevant to me, which ones do I want to actually invest energy into, which ones contribute to what I desire to create, and then be clearer, a lot clearer with what doesn't, and to not have to entertain those, but still communicate, still acknowledge them, but be clear and be like, no, that's not what's happening here. And for me, that's also a continuous practice, so to speak, is when I'm aware of it, it's like,
yeah,
wow, even when I haven't acknowledged it before in a particular element of it, it's like, no, that is not my reality, but I thought it somehow was or should be, or so it's created a lot more clarity for me in all of life.
Clarity is an interesting way of calling it, because what Max is, I'm going to just sort of talk about what Max is indicating from what I understand of what you're saying. And the thing that most people don't realize, well, it starts with, okay, let's just look at like relationships. Do our relationships have an impact on how we feel, how we think, the choices we make in life? Most people would say absolutely yes, unless you're some sort of sociopath, or even if maybe you're autistic and you have a different way of relating. Cool. Yes, there are outliers, but generally, relationships have an influence on how we think, how we feel, the choices we make, so on and so forth. But we can continue, and this is where this becomes a very important concept to get, is that just because somebody's body dies doesn't mean that that relationship ends or finishes. All of my Asians, brothers and sisters out there listening to this right now know this for a fact, because Asia understands that spirits are still part of the family and part of the community. Not necessarily in an enlightened way, but Asia doesn't exclude entity awareness like Europe and European descent cultures do. Obviously, Aelleen is Panamanian, where there's a whole other sort of entity reality, spirit information in those cultures. The planet is diverse. But one of the things that tuned me into that, it was important to recognize and acknowledge relationships with entities early on in my Talk to the Entities career. I was doing a session with a woman, and she had called me about her. She initially was actually asking about relationship questions. And what I became aware of in that conversation was that her deceased husband was very present. And I said, hey, do you ever talk to him? And she had no connection to the reality that he was there. But as soon as I turned us towards, hey, do you think he's still there? She was like, yeah, I think he is. And these are all the signs that I've been getting, that I've been invalidating or rejecting because I just didn't know how to look at this, or didn't want to think I was crazy, or didn't want other people to think I was crazy. But through that conversation, that session, she recognized his presence and how much he was communicating with her and how much there still was to handle or resolve in that relationship. He died very suddenly, and he didn't feel particularly resolved. And entities can do this when they cross over. And if they're not like resolved, or they still have conflict in a relationship, or they're just really controlling. Actually, there's a lot of reasons why entities hang around, but they hang out and they wait and they want to talk to the people that they've left. And this is a weirdly common phenomenon. How many people acknowledge that? So this person I was doing the session with was able to turn towards the spirit of her deceased husband, have a very resolving conversation. It was very cathartic, very transformative for her, but also for him. He was then able to feel resolved and to move on. And that being essentially moved on and created a lot of space for that woman to then go on to invite other love relationships into her life that otherwise wouldn't have worked very well, because essentially she'd be adding a boyfriend to her marriage, but they needed to resolve the marriage. And this is very common.
Yeah. I had a client, she had this situation too, but it's like the husband passed away. But she had this structure in the house. She slept in the same side they slept the marriage. And she tried to, have a date and different stuff. And the relation is like growing up. She tried to have sex or something. It's never happened. They tried to go into the room. No, it's not happened. And she just coming for bar session, and we start, and then she took the class and and she's like, wow, I perceive like he's live right there. He's still right there.
Yeah.
And the structure she had in the house is like he live right there. Like I remember I say, just we clean the entity, speak and all the stuff, and I say like what happened if you start to sleep in the middle of your bed? Just to recognize like you are the owner of the bed. And like when she just to acknowledge that, the energy changes, because they have this contract for all the life we are going to be together, and all this stuff. And that after that she can have a boyfriend finally.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just very, very beautiful to see what when you acknowledge the energy, all the stuff changes. And she all the time, like when she go into the room, she's angry, she's sad, always when she's back.
Right. She was still aware of him, and there was a lot of unresolved stuff in their relationship. And in like what I talk about is like in a conscious society, how would we handle the transition of our loved ones? Because in this society, or most of the societies that we're living in now, the death process is treated as though the person that you knew is now completely, totally, and utterly gone and has disappeared. And that's so not accurate or true. We don't disappear. Our being continues on. And if we were allowed to communicate with our transitioning loved ones, relatives, etc., those relationships would be so much more fulfilling and so much more whole, in that the beings would be able to move on more cleanly. Like, I'm sure this man, the spirit of the woman that you're talking about, the spirit husband of the woman you're talking about, did he wind up leaving at the end of that session?
Yes. It's just like that. Like she have this structure like crying, why you leave me, and it's just like okay, I want to go, but I have this contract to you with you.
So that's okay. So that's a huge thing too. So we can hold on to spirits with our resistance to letting them go. And that's another phenomenon in entities and relationship. So it's such a impactful area that almost nobody talks about. There are some movies that do actually illustrate this, I think, quite well. Some do it really creepily and others do it pretty well. There's a movie with Ricky Gervais. Max, do you remember what that one's called? Where he like has this accident and then he all of a sudden can like see ghosts and they all like seek him out because they're all unresolved and they want him to handle stuff for them.
Oh, I wish I did.
What is that movie called? I thought that was like
Ricky
really
Gervais, right? Oh gosh,
I'm gonna Google it.
But obviously, since it has Ricky Gervais in it, it's very funny, and they do it with a lot of humor and lightness, which really it works a lot better with the entity universe. I find with horror movies and stuff like that, there's a lot of like the heaviness is actually it's not real or true, but a lot of people buy it as part of their entity reality.
Well, fear is like a big entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but it's a big entertainment for all people, not just from movies. They love that sort of vibe.
The Ricky Gervais movie that I'm talking about is called Ghost Town. And it's really cool because I can't remember if he has like an accident or something, but basically he wakes up one day and like there's this like dude in his house and he's like, he thinks there's like an intruder, but then he figures out that he's hearing ghosts and he like resists it initially. And they just follow him around. Once they figure out that he can hear them, they follow him around because many of them are stuck because they haven't been able to resolve stuff in their relationships. And that's not a made up story. That's actually whoever wrote that script had an insight into this phenomenon. Yeah. So if you want to watch a movie about entities and relationship, I think that's a really good one. I mean, the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, that's like classic, right? And so I think like, okay, so in a conscious society, would we have prejudice against having relationships with entities, or would we include our relationships with entities, and what could that add and what could that be like?
And how much easier would it be too, and how much cleaner, simpler?
Because I'm not like we don't practice entity prejudice here. We practice entity inclusion. So like all beings are included and not judged. So that means if they have a body or don't have a body, which I also, in my weird kind of confidence, believe that is a step towards a more conscious world.
I'd like to share one more story that is on the other side of the spectrum of relationships, because we talked about, someone who's married and passed away and so forth. But I realized at one point that I was having a relationship with my father's demons. And I never got that beforehand, but there was always this fucking dark cloud and this doom and gloom kind of reality, like something bad's going to happen, like constantly. And this was some years into Access Consciousness and Talk to the Entities, where it finally resolved. Like I'd been aware of it kind of, but then there was this one night where Shannon and I were driving to an airport at night in some country. I don't remember where it was exactly, but we were talking about demons, and I'd gone through enough of... Sorry?
I said, as you do. We were talking about demons, as you do.
Well, the funny thing is we hardly ever talk about that sort of thing, but at this point we were. And I dealt with a lot of that already and had like a lot of awareness around demons and dealt with stuff. But it was sort of like the final piece in regards to my father's ones. And I remember just looking out of the window after we'd spoken about some stuff in regards to that. And I saw this demon figure, and I don't see entities often, but I saw it like sort of come. But I didn't have any reaction to it. It didn't have any more charge to it. I didn't believe that it was relevant to me. I didn't believe in the fear and all the stuff that they try and trigger. And it stopped and it just disappeared. It was like seeing it for what it was really, not the scary idea of it and sort of the relationship with it, but just seeing it for what it was. And that gave me so much freedom. And my relationship with my father is so much easier because I don't have to buy into this demon reality that I thought was mine and I had to submit to and all this sort of stuff. It gave me so much more ease and clarity with him. And I still see him interact. When I'm talking to him and when I'm dealing with him, I see him have that in his universe too. But I also don't have to fix it for him. So that's a big freedom and plus.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a seriously multifaceted topic. Again, I want to reiterate for everybody listening or who will ever listen to this or watch this, that this is what I consider an advanced entity specialty conversation, because we're not talking about stuff that comes quite a ways down the track of educating yourself on how to work with the spirit world. That's what Talk to the Entities is. It's really the A to Z curriculum of, number one, how to open up your awareness of spirits without feeling like it's driving you crazy or going to kill you, which is a very real response to why most people avoid it. And I say that because most of us turn towards this as adults out of necessity or curiosity, but have you been educated about entities and how to deal with it in your life? Because there are tools, points of view, and processes that are essential for handling entities. And when you know them, that opens up this magical world of possibility. When you don't know them, it can be very messy.
Yeah. And you get to have that. You get to create more of the relationship with yourself too, like Aelleen started this with, because I can really relate to that myself. It's so tricky to get a sense of the relationship with you when you have all of these other influences that are not clear.
And we need to call you. And I just want to call them what they are. Yes, we can call them influences, but they're actually, and a lot of times they're actually entities.
Yeah.
One of the first rules of Talk to the Entities is like, say it's an entity. It's like the opposite of Fight Club. Like, don't talk about Fight Club. It's like the opposite. Do you talk about entities? And that's like, it's like exposure therapy. You need to acknowledge like, yes, I am actually aware of spirits, because that has been so heavily judged for millennia that most of us are so heavily conditioned to avoid the conversation because we don't want to be judged, we don't want to be persecuted, we don't want to be condemned, we don't want to be socially rejected. But this is a different fucking time. This is a different century. This is a moment of possibility if you're interested.
Yeah, with more ease. It's 100% more ease, and you really can different part of your life when you are aware of all the energies around you. And it's not like to try to fight or control these. It's just life, create your life with all the energies around you. It's not something like it's wrong or bad. It's just ease. And yeah, really, like how much ease you can add in your family, in your relationship, in your all the stuff around you when you acknowledge the energies and the entities involved in your life.
Yeah, and just to emphasize what Aelleen is stating about the ease, it's like, do you even realize that working with entities creates ease? Most people don't until they do it, and they're like, oh, that's so much easier than what I was doing before.
Wow.
Yeah.
For me, it's like a big change in my life. Like when I start to speak about my own relationship, because a lot part of me is in different relationship with different entities and different kind of stuff, and then just realize I'm living in different part and knowing my own energy with my being. Oh my God, they change a lot. And yes, it's more like if you really want to know and create more ease in your life, these tools, really, it's very easy. It's not hard. No, you don't need to be weird with this. It's pretty easy.
I mean, you can make it hard and you can be weird with it, but obviously for Aelleen, she likes it easy. So do I.
It's not significant. It's no rituals. It's not this kind of stuff, because I know different people watch this kind of stuff and like, oh, I need to do that. No, it's pretty easy. It's like this kind of conversation, really.
Max, I think that's the car guy. If you could get the door. Sorry, we're having a household issue here for a quick sec. We'll hold down the fort while you're gone.
Yeah. It's amazing, Shannon. Like the way you when you acknowledge the energy and the entity of the relationship, it's the ease you can move and create the relationship you had or you had before. It's super easy to.
So just to clarify for everyone listening, so what Aelleen is indicating about the entity of the relationship, let me just talk about the difference between ancestral entities or spouses that died, for example, which are sort of like ancestral entities, really familial entities. And then there's the entities we create. And that's the relationships. Those are created entities. They don't exist naturally. They don't have a sort of life force of their own. That life force is established through two people or a constellation of people, i.e. the family, contributing their point of view to create this external entity. So I just want to define that for people.
Yeah, this is that moment, like your family want you hold this relationship and you don't want it, but all is like all the expectation, all the entity, all the stuff is just like right there, and you're like, I don't like this, but everybody approved that, all the energy entities working on that. But when you acknowledge you are part of this, you can change that with more ease and no drama. Or less drama, I want to say that.
Yeah, more choice, essentially. You get a lot more choice when you have a lot more awareness about what's actually impacting and influencing your feelings, your points of view, the choices you allow yourself and don't allow yourself, which is such a huge, if not the biggest, influence on our whole lifetimes. So this is a big conversation, and I'm really glad that Aeleen's really bringing the energy of ease into this, because essentially when you do know the tools, and it can be something that adds so much more freedom and ease to your life, which isn't a side effect that most people think they relate to entity work. But that's the difference with Talk to the Entities, and that's the difference with consciousness. Consciousness includes everything, including entities, and judges none. Judges nothing, including doesn't judge you for being aware of entities. So if you are interested in learning more about this, if this has rung any bells in your universe, there are Talk to the Entities specialty facilitators. You can find those classes posted on the Talk to the Entities or Access Consciousness website. You can also visit the Talk to the Entities specialty Entities and Relationship. That is me facilitating the first Entities and Relationship specialty class several years ago. It's a 3-part call that will absolutely change your life.
Having this conversation actually is a great reminder for me to get to work even more with this, because I've noticed I've gotten, even as a Talk to Entities facilitator, I've changed a lot of stuff. And I've chosen a lot of difference, but there's so much more with acknowledging and creating relationships.
Oh, yeah, actually, you're just reminding me too you just stimulated something I want to add to this, is that we can be in a relationship with somebody, and that body can actually have what we call a walk-in. So the original occupant either stays or goes, but then a new occupant comes in and occupies that body. So if any of you guys have ever had a parent who goes in for surgery, or somebody that you know, could even be you, who has some sort of accident, usually this walk-in phenomenon occurs when the body goes through a trauma. It can be an accidental trauma or a scheduled trauma like a surgery or a drug overdose or hitting your head and blacking out. There can be another being that comes in. So if you ever hear yourself thinking like, wow, that person is totally different now, or wow, they've really changed. Yes, that change is possible. People change all the time, but you also can sometimes be aware of you're literally dealing with a different entity. So if you're not acknowledging the entities and the difference in the person, you will continue to expect and project that the person be what they were, and the relationship might feel really weird until you acknowledge, oh, this is like a totally new being, which makes things a lot, there you go, easier again.
Yeah. Oh, that topic, it's just like a very huge, and it's so many.
It's really big. Really, we could have like 15 of these tiny sessions on this topic. But again, because we're dealing with a very complex thing, which is relationship, and then we're adding this extra complexity, which is entities. So again, those of you guys that are out there that want more information, more education, more awareness around entities, please do check out Talk to the Entities, the Talk to the Entities website. We have introduction classes, beginning classes, intermediate classes, advanced classes, and specialty classes. There is a lot to learn here, but once you get the ABCs of it, the world becomes a very different and lighter and brighter place. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this today. Please check out Aelleen in the languages, and Aelleen primarily facilitates, I suppose, in Spanish, right?
Yes.
You can be doing Spanish Talk to the Entities classes with Aelleen, and Max facilitates in English and in German. So be sure to check them out wherever you see the possibility in the future for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.